Okay, so recording has started. Uh, let me share. Hey guys, okay. So what are the today's topic? So let me screens. Okay. So today's topic are we have to understand today about constructors. After this, we're going to talk about arrays, 1D and 2D, how that we can have a two-dimensional array or in a 1D array. And the last thing we'll be talking about the enhanced for loop. Okay. It is like a second version of the for loop which we have already seen. So let's start with constructors first. Okay. So constructors. Uh, Let us first on the project. So meanwhile, it is starting. What are constructors, right? What we have been knowing about classes is like class is like a blueprint. So we talked about, let's say, animal, right? And we were talking about saying that it's a class here. And within the class, let's say I have added two attributes to it. Let's say name, which is a string, right? Which is a string. Not here, sorry. String is a variable, right? So name is a variable of type string. Similarly, there is a, let's say, an int value, and the variable name is id, right? So this is animal class, and it will have some. So these are called what? These are instance variable or local variable? Tally.
Local variable.
No. Why it would be
No,
local
sorry.
variable?
Instance inside the class.
Right, inside the class. So
Yeah,
these are
yeah,
not
yeah.
okay. So okay. Now let's talk about the methods. So let's say I created a method public void get details, right? Here inside this method, if I create some variables, those would be termed as local variables, right? But let's say whatever logic I want to add, I will add here, right? But this is how my class looks like. Okay. Now this is a class. So let me point it out here. This is a class. So class is like a blueprint, right? Where you will use it to create some copies of it. And how do you create a copy? By creating some objects of the same class, right? How do you create objects? You write line like this. You say animal. So the syntax is class name, which is this class name. Then a variable name for it. Let's say lion. Okay. And
Equal to new dot m.
okay, new. Okay, new animal. Right. Sally, can you be on mute, please? Thank you. Okay, so animal lion equals to new animal. Okay, now this is how you create the object. This part is the reason that it creates a copy of this animal, and it will provide here, right? This is that part which is the reason of it, right? Now inside this syntax, inside this entire syntax, we understood yesterday that this part here is the class name. Otherwise, you can also understand in a way like lion here is a variable name. It's a variable name, first of all. It's a variable name, and the type of this variable name is animal, right? So in that sense, eh, first of all, this is a class name here, right? It's a class name, but for us it's like a custom data type, right? We talked about this yesterday. But again, I'm not trying to focus on this part, but just for the continuity of our yesterday's class, I'm just mentioning again, right? It's like a custom data type, but for us today, just understand it's a class name here. Now on the right hand side, when you use a new keyword, right, this is that it is at this moment that the copy of your animal class, right, gets created here, right? And who refers it? It is referred by lion, right? Right, this is how it is. And here what you will get, these are instance variables. These are instance variables. So here also you will get, see, when I say getting a copy, right, it means entire thing which you have here, right, would be copied here. So you will see something like this again: string, name, int, id, and again a method here, right, which is public void get details. Let's say get details, right? We will have something like this. Let me say that I create another object of it. This time I'm doing animal tiger equals to new animal, right? I'm doing this. So here what will happen, you will get another copy of it where you will get the same thing, right? String, name, int, id, and again public void get details. So you can understand, right? Both are getting their own copy of that class, right? Now everyone remembers these are what? These are instance variables. If I don't provide a value to them, what value they will get? They will get default values, right? Because these are instance variables. Okay, how do you provide the values to these variables? If based on their access modifier, you can directly access them, and if there are some if you have used private or something, right, you will have to use, let's say, some methods to access them. Okay, okay, so okay, so this is that part. Let's say, uh, see, we are talking about constructors, right? That is our topic which we have to discuss. But but the explanation which I just gave you, right, first of all, this needs to be very clear, like what is happening here. You create a class, and when you create an object of a class, you get a copy of this class like this. And this time I've created two objects, one this and another this, right? So I have created two copies of the same class, right, like this. And here the instance variables here, right, have like what? These are like I mean, for the lion, right, if I type lion dot name here, right, if I try to print this out, what value it will print? Atif, what this will print as of now?
Lion, a null, because it is a string.
Right, it will print null, right? You're right. And if I print id here,
0.
0, right? Everyone understands this part, right? Why this is happening this way? Because these two are instance variables, right? These two are instance variables, and if you have not initialized them, they will attain some default values, right? And I've told you like what are the default values based on data type which you're using. So for string it is null, int it would be 0. Similarly, if I try to print this as out tiger dot name, what will I get? Kusuma. Can you answer that? If I run tiger dot name in the output, what is the output I should get? If you're saying something, you're not audible. Okay. Sudhakar?
Just now I did. You just created object, right?
Yes.
If you're not providing any value, it will give you the default value. If it is a string,
Default-
it will give you null.
Null, right? And what will be the value for ID here again?
0.
0, right? So it would be 0 there. Okay. Now we are talking about constructors, right? So what is the constructor part here, right? See, in this syntax, right, we understood animal, we understood lion, we understood new, we understood animal. But what is this part? These brackets which we are placing here. What are these part here, right?
We call
This
them
is
methods, right?
okay.
In
Okay.
parentheses.
You are absolutely right. You're absolutely right, right? So keep that thought in mind, right? You will, since you already answered this, you are like, it's like you're calling a method, right? That is what you think, right? Because this is how you invoke a method, right?
Yeah,
If
yeah.
if I would have created a method like say get details, what you will do? You will just simply do get details and just invoke like this, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, you're doing here also, right? So
Yes.
remember this part. Now, let me come to the definition of constructors first. What are constructors? But this arrangement should be very, I mean, it should be placed here first, right? Before we understand that part. Now, what are constructors? Constructors, I'm just giving the formal, definitions of it. Constructors are like methods, okay? are like methods. They are very similar to methods. Okay, these are very similar to methods. But the name here, right? Name of this method has to be same as your class name. What is your class name over there? Animal. What was your class name in the previous slide? Animal. Eh?
Animal. Yeah.
So if you want to have a constructor within your class, what name it will have? It will have animal only. Okay. And how do you create a method? You create a method. Let's say you will add something like this, right? An access modifier. Let's say public, right? Then you provide a return type. Let's say void, and then you give the name of the method, right? And then you have brackets, or if here you can accept the arguments, right? Arg1. Okay. Let me give you both the flavors. So this is how you do it. Or you could do something like this also. Public void animal, and you can do like string a, right? Let's say string b. So these are both valid methods here, right? This is one method, this is another method, right? Right? I think no issues in this part, right? This is how you create a method. When it comes to constructors, first of all, I told you that the constructors are like methods, right? But the name of these constructors, I mean, in the case of constructor, the name of that method should be same as your class name. So name is claim as class name. So let me write here. So I will provide first animal here. Okay. So this is the name. What access modifier you can have? You can have any access modifier. Public, private, protected, default, whatever you want, you can add that access modifier. Let me make it public. As of now, just understand with the public part. Now the return type, right? Now the return type is the one which we are missing. We had in methods, but in case of constructors, you do not have a return type. Okay, another rule. So in case of constructors, no return type. So what does it also means is that you cannot return anything from your constructor. This line is clear, right, to everyone? Cannot return anything from your constructor, right? Since you are not providing int, void, string, anything here, right? What will happen is, since you are not mentioning here, it also means that you cannot have a written statement anywhere, right? You cannot have a written statement like this, right? So this is not possible in constructors. So three rules again, right? So constructors are like methods. Second is there the name of the constructor is same as your method name. Third is you cannot return anything from the constructor. The fourth part, which is the same as this, like let's say methods also accept some arguments, or they may not accept some arguments, right? Let's say in this case, right, no argument is accepted, but some arguments are accepted. So similarly, you can have brackets here, and if you want, you can accept. If you do not want, keep it as is. Okay. Now the last part. Okay, so it can accept parameters. The last part. Now when you create a method, right, your intention is that someone will invoke that method, right? Someone will invoke that method. In case of constructors, who will invoke this method? This is the most important part. Who will invoke my constructor here? Who will invoke the constructor? Now see this. Now just okay. So this is how a constructor is created: public, animal. These are empty brackets. This and this, right? Now in the previous slide, I was writing like this: animal lion equals to new animal, right? And I was putting here brackets. Now what is happening is, whenever this piece of thing is running, right, it will try to find a constructor which matches to the signature. And here I have created one. I have created an animal, right, which is not accepting an input. So what is happening is, when you're doing this, right, it will go and invoke this. Okay, and whatever you would have written here, right, would get executed. Okay, so this should be very clear, right? When does your constructor gets called? It is called at the time of your object creation itself. So when you are calling, when is your constructor getting called? It is invoked when you create the object of the class, right? Let's say if you had another method here, right? a normal method, not a constructor. Let's say public void get details, right? If you would have to invoke this method, what will you do? By just simply writing this line, this method will not get executed. You will have to do something like this: lion dot get details, and only then that method would be invoked, right? But when is your constructor getting invoked? It is getting invoked at the time of object creation itself. You do not have to do like this lion dot animal. You don't have to do this. Okay, you don't have to do this. What you have to do is at the time of object creation itself, that will be getting invoked. Is, I mean, does all these 5 rules are okay? Did you understood this part? All the 5 rules? Any question on this part? No queries? Okay, let's do this. Let's start running this. Okay, let's see about this. So what I'll do is, again, let me just first check if I should not have anything here. Git status. Okay, there's so much to add. Git add. Git commit -m. Yesterday we learned about what? Okay, we learned about a lot of things. Let us d10 changes. So I did this, and now let me just push it. Git push in day 10. So my job is done on that part. Let me now create a new branch. So it would be git checkout minus b day 11. Okay. So I am on day 11 now, and let me just remove everything. Let's start simple. So let me remove everything from here. Delete. Okay, everything is gone. Let me create a class, animal class, right? And here, let me also create one jungle class. Okay, let me create jungle class, and here inside the jungle class, I will have my main method. And what I'll do is, let me have some variables here: string name, int id here, and let me create one method, public void get details, right? And I will print what? I will print here name is, okay, name is name plus id is id. Okay. Then just give me 2 minutes, right? I'll be back. Just give me a sec. I'll be back. Sorry. Actually, okay, someone came at the door. Sorry. Uh, okay, where I was. Okay, yes. We created this class, right? And here I was saying we have these two variables and we have a method, get details. Now, on this here, right? What I did was I created this thing here with the method name. And what I'll do next is I will, okay, let me first open the right split. So this is my animal class and I'm in the jungle class. And what I will do is, let me first create the instance of the class. How do you create the instance of the class? You write animal, let's say this animal class name. You will say lion and equals to new animal. Okay. And this is how we have been doing till now, right? This is how we have been doing. You can see, right? Okay. Who we have? Just a second. Let me check. We have, okay. Azhar did not join today. Okay. Jaswant. Jaswant, tell me, do you see a constructor here as of now in the element class?
No, sir.
No, right? Okay. But I told you, like, as per my explanation, I am saying that let's again just try to understand this complete line. Animal is the class name, which is like a data
Yes.
type, and this is the variable which you have created, lion, right? So lion
Yes.
is of type what? Animal. Okay,
Yes.
right, everyone? And here we're trying to initialize a value to my lion. But since this is a class being involved, what I'm doing is I will have to create the object of that class, which will create a copy of my blueprint and assign it to a lion, right?
Yes.
That is what it is doing. Now,
Yes.
as part of this process, new we understood. New is that keyword which will help me to generate that copy. Animal is the name of that class for which I want to generate a copy, right? And what are these brackets? These brackets, I told you, this is something related to the constructor part. What I told you is, if this line is getting executed, this line will try to find this kind of a method, which is a constructor in my case, right? This is what a constructor. Do you see that constructor there? No, right? As you said, there is no constructor being mentioned, which at least I have not mentioned it, right? But if I go and try to run this, let's say name here, right? And I will try to print s out like this, right? If I try to run this, will it print something? Will it run? Will it? Yeah, just one. You tell me if you know.
Um, we don't get any, right? We get an all.
Sorry.
We didn't give the name like lion dot here.
Sorry, I'm not getting. What are you saying? Will it print something or not?
No, we did not give lion dot name equal to something. Right?
But name is a instance variable, right? It will get a null, a default value, which is null,
None.
right?
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
if I run this, will it really run or not?
I think it's
It should run, right? Okay. Who I was asking? I was asking someone. Villain, right? Villain, can you tell me like what it should do? What line number 7 will do? Villain, you there? Okay. Sudhakar, if you're there now, yes, you're there now.
Yeah, it will give
It will?
output as null. It will
Sorry,
give output as null.
output is null, so it will run, right?
Yeah, objective created, right? The default values are assigned to assign.
Okay, you're not very clear, but I understood that you're saying it will print null, right? Okay,
Yes.
okay, okay. I think we have been doing this kind of work from the beginning of our Java discussion. So, and you know that we never created a constructor, right? We never did that, and it still works, right? If I run this, you will find it will print what? It will print null. Okay, but now the question will arise, Akhil, you said that this will try to look for a method. Okay, let this get completed. You see, it printed null, right? Now you can ask Akhil, you just said that one if this line is getting executed, it looks for a method, right, which matches to that name, right, which in our case becomes a constructor. So if I have to write a constructor, how would I write it? I have to just see what is my class name. My class name is animal. I will type animal, open up the brackets, and I don't want to accept anything. And this is my constructor created. A simple, good enough constructor being created, right? Again, if you want to assign public or default, whatever you want, let me mark it as public. Okay, so this is my constructor fully valid. If I try to provide a return type to it, right, you will see it will throw an error. It did not throw an error. Just a second. Oh, okay. This is about what we say. We can have constructor and method. Okay, I got it. Okay, so what is happening here is, okay, let's not ignore. Okay, as of now, just ignore that part which I showed. Okay, I'll explain this part also. We will understand this in the case of when we talk about overloading. Okay, I'll tell about this part. But here, just understand, like, this is how your constructor looks like. Okay, and as of now there is nothing, right? Let me add something here. I will say I will write here I am an animal. Okay, let's say. So when you were running this line as of now and you were printing lion.name, it was just printing what name here. I mean, and in our case, what was the name? Null. If I run this program now, very clearly see what would be the output. Okay, closely see that. Let's run this. Right. You see, this information also got printed. Why? This got printed because when you wrote this line, right, it tried to find this animal here, right, and this time it found one, right? It did found one, and so it is like when this is getting executed from here, right, at line number 5, it will try to invoke this constructor here, right, which it find in the class, and this time it did find one, and while invoking it came to know that, okay, I have to also print this line. So the first thing which it did was it invoked this method, and whatever logic you will write here, right, got printed. Okay, and after this line, right, it went to find the value of name for this line, and it is null, so it printed null. Okay, now the genuine question which should arise is, Akhil, in the last case you did not added this, right? So at that point of time the program ran, right? Why is that? Why did the program run? The program was able to run because the rules of Java is, if you are not creating a constructor by yourself, Java will create a default constructor for you. Okay, and how does that default constructor looks like? It looks like this: a method without a body. Okay, this is also a genuine constructor. You don't want to add anything, don't add, and let's just run it again and see this. This time you will see only null getting printed, right? Because there is nothing to execute here, right? So what is happening is, and if I remove this again, you can see, let me save this. If I run this again, the same output, right? Null. So what is the meaning here? The meaning is, if your class does not have a constructor, Java will add a constructor for you, right, which you cannot see, which you will not be able to see, but internally Java will add that constructor for you. But that constructor would not be accepting any arguments, plus that constructor would not be having any logic inside this, so it would be like a blank constructor. So even if you invoke it, it is not adding any value, right? At least in your processing logic, right, everyone? Do we understand this part? So in this case, you can see, right, I do not have a constructor, but as soon as I start to run this program, right, Java will internally add a line like this. Okay, it will add a constructor like this, which is empty, and then it will try to run this, and this time when this line is getting executed, it goes there and tries to invoke this, but nothing needs to be executed from this, so it does not do anything, right? So it just moves to the next line, and whatever you have mentioned, it gets executed. Okay, do we understand all this? Okay, great. Now let's change this. Okay, now tell me, let's say this time I want to have the value of this name, right? How can I specify the value of name? Okay, now tell me, uh, Sally, tell me, if I want to set the value of name for the lion, what should I type here?
System dot out dot print inside the method, right?
No, no,
Sorry.
no, not inside the method. I'm saying over here, right? In the jungle class, I have
Hmm.
already created the instance of an animal and assigned it to a lion variable, right? Now,
Yeah.
using the lion variable, I want to set the value of this name, right? For the lion. What line should I write here? Line number 6 or 7?
Uh,
I want to set the name of the lion.
Set the name of line. Sorry, I'm not getting the question.
I want to write here. If see, currently if I'm printing lion dot name, it prints null, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So I want to don't not print null, but have a some value for the name. Okay.
So
Let's say.
you mean to say we
hmm,
want to create the constructor over there?
No, no. What I want mean to say is that let's say I want to create a okay. If I go back here, right, on this board here, right, you had this animal class which we just created, right,
Yeah.
and we wrote this line. As soon as you write
Yes.
this line, you get this copy created. Now
Yes.
you have not set the value of name and ID here, right? So if you print
No.
name and ID as of now, it will print default values which are null and zero.
No. Yes.
Let's say I don't want to do that. I want to write here Joy, okay, as a
Okay.
name.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
tell me what line I should write in my code so that
Yeah.
if
Okay.
I print lion.name, it should print Joy at line number
So
7.
string name is equal to whatever name we wish to give. We can give initialize it and give the value.
Tell me the syntax.
String name is equal to
String.name equals to
no, not dot name. String name is equal to
this.
right. Is giving error.
How can you access the variable of this name of a lion? You will have to write this only, right? Lion.name equals to Joy, right?
Oh yeah.
This
Okay.
is
In that
how you
case.
set
Okay.
this is how you set the value of a variable, right? Which is for this object, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So this is what I was asking. So what I have to do is lion dot name equals to Joy, right? Let's say. Okay.
Okay.
Now it is clear, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Similarly, tell me if I have to set the for ID, what should I do?
ID
ID is here another
line dot
variable
ID. Yeah.
lion.id. Okay.
Line dot ID is equal to
Let's
1
say
to whatever. Yeah.
right. Let's say one, right? And
Yeah.
let us create one more instance of of animal class, and this time I will term it as tiger equals to new animal and this, right, and this time again I want to set the value for this part, and I will want to set what let's say Derek. Okay, let's say Derek, right, and I will provide a value to this. It will be like say 2, right, for the ID. Now again let's understand this, what is happening here, right? Once you did this, right, what happened is the value of name here, right, got assigned as for the lion as Joy. Okay, and you can see, right, it is happening in the copy of lion only, right, and the value of ID got assigned to, let's say, 1, right, when you did this part lion dot ID equals to 1, right, everyone? If you ran these two lines, what is happening is you are setting the values, you are filling up that blueprint, right, which you have assigned it to you're filling the copy of that blueprint, right, which you assigned this to a lion variable, right? So lion is pointing to this, and when you said lion dot name, it reached here and set the value. When you did lion dot ID, it set the value for this. But understand, when you're doing this, it is making no impact here, right? Because if you have to access this, you will have to access it using the tiger copy. Okay, and what you will do here is you will type, you will, if you have to set these values, what you will do, You will say tiger dot name equals to Derek, right? Tiger dot id equals to 2. So what will happen is it will set to Derek, it will set to 2. I hope there is no confusion, right, on this part. Right, everyone? See, you're not saying yes or no, so I am assuming you are understanding everything. Okay.
Yeah, understood. But what do we call this part? The way operation which we did just now.
No, this
It
is
was
just the
kind of
assignment, right?
initializing, no?
Yeah,
Yeah, kind of initial. Yeah,
this is initializing. You are setting the value of a variable, right? And
yeah,
you
yeah.
are using the all the knowledge which you already had before this class, right? I am currently now trying to move to that constructor part. Like, what is the use case of having a constructor? We understood like what is the constructor. It is same as the class name, and it behaves like a method, so that and it gets invoked when you write this line. But why we would use animal? I mean the constructor part. I'm trying to reach there. As of now, the only option to set the values is like set by directly accessing those variables, right? Like
Yeah,
this. Now,
yeah, yeah.
yesterday we learned about access modifiers also, right, everyone? So if I make this as private, will I be able to set the values like this? Let me set it as web private here. You see, as soon as I typed private here, it started giving an error here. Why is that? Because as soon as you mark something as private, right, the scope of those variables gets limited to that class. So outside this class, these values cannot be accessed. So this is so at line number 7, you're getting that error,
So in
right?
actual life, how many times we use this private access modifier? For most of the times, it will be public only.
No, that is not the correct understanding. It depends, right? What are you trying to achieve? But most of the time, if you have the instance variable of a class, you should be choosing to put it as a private variable only. The methods are something which you will keep as public. Okay. But
Okay,
the instance variables, you will be trying to keep it as private variable most of the time.
okay,
Okay. Not all the times, but most of the time. And that is the rule of, I mean, that is the part where the encapsulation concept gets into the picture, which we will
okay,
discuss in the next week. Okay. So
okay,
this is how you did. Now you can understand the problem now. What is happening? Because since you marked as private, you cannot access the variables like this, right? So it is of no use now. But I still have to set the values. Okay. I still have to set the values. How will I set the values now? I can see, okay, these are instance variables, right? These are instance variables. So where these are instance variables. So where okay, can I access these variables inside the get details? I think I can, right? You can see I'm already accessing it and it is not giving an error, right? So can I also access these variables inside the animal class and this animal constructor here? Because this animal constructor is also inside this animal class only, right? And since this is, let's say these are private as of now, I told you a private variable can be accessed inside the class only. And this animal constructor is a part of that class. So we can still access them here. Okay. So if I want to set the value of name, you can see, let's say name equals to Joy, right? And ID equals to 1. I can do it, right, everyone? And I don't need to do this anymore. Let me just comment this part also. Let me just comment this part, right? So if I run this animal line equals to new animal right now, right? You can see what will happen. Okay, let me now see. I cannot access this variable directly since it's a private variable. So I will use this get detail. So I will invoke this. Okay, just a second. Okay, let's run this. If I run this line now, what is happening? Let's just do a walkthrough of it. First, we created the animal class. We created two variables which are both of private nature, and I have one method get details which wants to print these values, right? Which it will attain. If I don't set the values of these variables because these are instance variables, they will attain the default values, right? And but I do want to set the values, right? So I tried to set the values from this class, but I could not because these are private variables. So what I thought is, let's use my constructor to set the values, because constructor is a part of this class, right? And I can access these private variables here also, right? So now if I run this line as is, right, and try to print the method of get details, which is printing a name and ID, what value it will print? What value it will print? Atif? Atif? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. So it should print Joe and name is Joe, ID is 1.
1, right? So it will print
Yeah.
this. Let's run this. Name is Joe, ID is 1, right? We got this, everyone? Now let's try to do it for Tiger also. So if I do this for Tiger, again, if you try to access through Tiger name and ID, you cannot access because these are private variables. So these are not, you cannot use. Okay. Now you created a Tiger, and let's say I want to print Tiger now. Tiger dot details. If I run this as is, right? If I run this as is, what output should I get for this? Let me ask Avilash.
Yeah, okay.
So can you tell me, like, if I run this line number 10 now, what should be the output of this?
Same. So both
Same.
line dot get details and tiger dot gets the same output. Joe
Okay,
and ID.
you're right. So let's run this and show it to everyone here. See everyone, right? You're seeing this, right? That you're able to here for lion also it is printing the same information, tiger also it is printing the same information. But which seems to be like incorrect, right? I do not want it to have same values for lion also and tiger also. For tiger, I wanted to have Derek, right? Now, what can I do here? So the part is currently your what you can do is in your methods, right? If you have to set the values, you could accept some parameters, right, from the method itself. Similarly, I can do it for the constructor also. So what I'll do is I will accept some values. I will say animal name, and I will say int animal ID. Okay, and what I will do is I will do something like this. Animal ID, right? Now what I have done is this time I have changed the signature of my constructor, right? This time my constructor would be requiring to accept two parameters, which is string and the ID, right? And this here, right, whatever value I will assign, right, it will get set to these variables, right, name and ID here, right? And if I try to access those variables in the get details like this, it will print those values because these are something which got set here, right? Now you can see at line number 5 it started complaining. Why? Because it tried to find this kind of a signature of a constructor, but it could not find, right? Now I do not have a constructor like this, public animal, like kind of this kind of a structure, right? I did not have this since I created this. So let me remove this again. So if you would see it now, it is complaining, right? So what is how I can resolve this? I will have to make sure that it is meeting this kind of a signature where I have to provide two inputs. So what I'll do is for lion, I will provide the name as Joy. So I can provide here itself Joy, and I will provide the integer value as 1, right? Similarly, for the tiger also, I will provide here Derek, and here I will provide 2, right? And if I this time I run this method, right, these two methods here, what should I print? Let me ask. Rafaelia, can you answer? If I run this line number 9, what output should I get? Okay. I hope Raphaelia is typing. I am audible, right?
She said Joan 1.
Okay, join. Okay, seems some issue with my system. My chat box is not okay. I don't know what is happening. Okay. Okay. She said join one, right? Okay. So, and what would be the value for tiger dot get details if I run this? Kusuma, if you are there, if you can answer.
Yeah, it's a Derek and 2.
Derek into,
Name
right?
is Derek, ID is 2. Yeah.
You understand this part, right? Why this is having that way, right?
Yes.
Okay. Right. So let's run this. So earlier we had this kind of a problem, right, where both the values were same, right? But now using the constructor, right, and accepting the values from the constructor itself, it helped me to set the values of my instance variables, right? Now what is happening is, if I go back to this diagram here, right, what I did, instead of doing this, I am doing this now, new animal, and here I am accepting input as joy and 1, right? And inside this I have created a constructor now, which is like this: public animal string a, let's say string a int b, right? And here I'm setting this name equals to a, whatever value I'm setting to a, it is getting saved to name, and whatever value I'm setting to b, it is getting set to id, right? This is the only part which I've changed. And when I'm running this line here, right, this line here, see, the complete line looks like this, right? This is the complete line. Animal lion equals to new animal and this joy and 1. So new will do what? It will create a copy of this class. It create a copy. But at this point of time, it also invokes the constructor of this class, which is this. And here itself, when you invoke this, right, you have provided the value of these two variables. Here, joy was provided to A and 1 was given to B. And B is getting assigned to name, which is what? Which is this variable. So in a way, you're setting the value of name here directly, which is what? Joy, right? But this is happening for this variable here, right? So let me not do this here. So what is happening here is name is getting set to Joe, and what is the value of B which you're giving, which you're receiving is 1, which is getting set to ID, and ID is what? ID is this, right? So for this case, it is setting to 1. So the copy which you created for the lion, right, looks like this, where the name is Joe and ID is 1, right? Similarly, when you do it for tiger, right, and you provide Derek and 2 here, right? Try to understand, Derek is getting assigned to here to A is being assigned to name, which is this variable. So name is Derek here, and similarly for ID, for the ID part, right, it is receiving 2. So this is how you use constructors, right? Okay, first of all, we have to understand, we have to remember all the rules of constructors. Let me revise it first. Constructors, these looks like similar to methods. Okay. Second, the name of the name of the constructor has to be same as your class name. Third, there are no return types which you should provide for a constructor. So it also means that the constructors cannot return anything from inside this. What is the purpose of constructor is, you can do some logical operations, but you cannot return something out of it, right? And when I say logical operation, it also involves setting up the parameters value, right? So you can do it, and this is what we did till now. Okay. Okay. And the most important part, when is your constructor gets invoked? It gets invoked when you try to create the object of that class. Okay. And if you have changed again, okay, so these are the rules. The second set of rules are, if you have not created a constructor for by yourself in a class, right, Java will create a default constructor for you, which will not accept any argument and which will not have any body. Okay. So in a way, if you in a way, it does not do anything, right? It just creates that. But try to understand that Java always needs a constructor there, right? If you're not creating, it will create it for you. Okay. Now let's say you want to change that behavior, right? Let's say you wanted to have some additional capability as part of the constructor. What you can do is, you can add a constructor by yourself, right? Maybe with the same signature, which is animal and then the empty brackets, and then just open the parentheses, and whatever logic you want to write there, you can add there, right. And similarly, what you can do is you can also accept parameters in your constructor like we did, and there you can use it to set your instance variables like the way we are doing, right. So we have to understand like what is this constructor, right. So constructors can help you to set your instance variables at the time of object creation. So see this line, right. This constructor over here, right, this constructor over here is helping you to set the values of your instance variables, right, at the time of object creation. I hope this line, the complete line, is making sense. Sally, is it making sense? Is it clear to you?
Somewhat.
Okay. See, again, try to understand this in a form of a method only, right? Method we all are good at. Okay. So see here, right? What is happening? It is like you're calling an animal method right here, right? Which looks like this. What is your animal method accepting? It is accepting string and int, and this is what you're providing, right? And
Yeah.
the value which you're providing is getting is used to set the values of this name and ID, right? Name and
Yeah.
ID. So in a way, you're setting the values of these variables, name and ID here, right?
Yes.
Okay. But try to understand here, right? You are doing all of this at the object creation itself, right? You
Yeah.
now you have reduced some of your work, right? Why
Yeah.
is that? Because now you don't have to do something like this. Lion dot name equals to this, right? These are like extra lines. Why to do this? We can make use of this constructors, right, to set the values of your instance variables, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So instead of doing this, you can just use your constructors to accept the inputs, and it will help you to set the values of your instance variable. Okay.
So
And
I
if you
understood the lion case, but tiger case I got confused. So in this case, so we are not accessing anything from this different program called animal, right? If we are passing the arguments directly in the constructor itself, right?
hmm,
So it means values are getting picked up from there itself. So nothing is getting called from this other program, right?
when you say other program, you mean the other class, right?
Animal.
So
Yeah, yeah, the animal.
see, I see, again, try to understand this class is a blueprint. Okay. This class is a
Yeah.
blueprint where you have not filled the values for name and ID. Okay. Let me first remove this private. Okay. It's not that only with private you have to use these values, right? So let's make it simple. These are public, right? These are public, let's say. Okay. These are public here, let's say, right? And what I'm saying is this is a blueprint of animal class, which looks like this, where your name and ID are blank. These are blank fields. How
Yeah.
can you set a value? You will set a value after creating the copies of it. You cannot directly set the values in your class, right? How it works in Java is you create the copy of your blueprints, and how do you do it? By creating the object. At this line, when you do something like this, animal lion equals to new animal, and the brackets part and semicolon, that is how it creates a copy of it, and it assigns to you lion, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like a separate copy, and in that separate copy you want to set the name, you want to set the values for name and ID, right?
Yeah. So when you
Right.
now run this tiger, this line number
Hmm.
7,
Huh.
what actually is getting invoked from the program? Only this line is getting, this line itself is providing it all the necessary inputs to give the output, right? It is not going anywhere else.
Yes, and that is what it was intended to do, right? When you run
Yeah.
this line, what it will do? It will create it will try to create a copy of this animal class, right? A copy of this animal. So again, a copy of this blueprint will be created, and it would be attached to this tiger variable name, right? And there, what will be the value of name and ID? This would be the value of name and ID there.
Yeah. So for okay. So for tiger, we need not to create another get details method in this animal dot Java program, right?
Why would you need it? I told you this entire class is a blueprint, and when you
Yeah.
create an object of this class, you get everything from that class. So lion is also getting the exact copy of that animal class as tiger will get.
Yeah.
So tiger will also. So what will lion get? Lion will get these two variables. Lion will get this constructor also, and lion will get this method also. And what about tiger? When you create a tiger like this, even tiger will get all the things. These two variables, this constructor and this method also. So both the variables here are getting everything, right, from the animal class. but what is changing is the values which you are providing,
Yeah.
which are like your blank fields, right? Where you're trying to fill up the values now.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. And when you try to run lion.getDetails, so which method is, if from this diagram, if you would see, if you run lion.getDetails, which getDetails gets invoked? This is that copy which belongs to lion, right? If you do
Yeah.
lion.getDetails, it runs this method, right? And
Yes.
when you
Yes.
do tiger.getDetails, it is not running this method. No, it is running its own method, right, of getDetails, which is this.
Okay. Okay. So they both are having their own different methods which are getting invoked. Okay.
That is what the meaning of creating a copy of a class, right? You get the entire copy of that class with you.
Okay.
Okay. And when I
So
say
is
get,
there not any, okay? So is there not any provision that we could have used it in the way you have called it tiger.getDetails and lion.getDetails in one line? That can't be done
but why would you need it? GetDetails is
because
a method where you want to get the values which your, let's say you want to fetch some values of a lion, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
you want to print it. So those are two different things now, right?
yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, the focus should be to understand here how you, what is the purpose of using constructor when they are invoked or when they cannot be invoked, right? What is the default nature? In by default, you do not create constructors, and if you're not creating constructors, Java will create for you, right? And the second part which I said is, you can also accept some arguments in your constructor, right? Like we did, right? Because these are like normal methods. How does your normal methods can also accept the inputs, right? Yes, Sally,
Yeah.
please. You raised your hand, right?
No, sorry, mistakenly it happened.
Okay, 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 no worries. Okay, I hope this is getting clear to everyone, right? And we will use this way only, right? Going ahead, we will try to use constructors only to set the values of our instance variables. Now you can see, right? Whether you make your instance variables as public or private, right? Your animal constructor here will be able to see it because this is a part of the class itself, right? And you can set the values by this line, and it now you will don't have to create, you do not have to care whether it's a private or a public thing. Okay. Okay. Next. We have to arrays, right? We have to discuss about arrays. Let's start discussing that part. Okay. First of all, can someone tell me the meaning of data structure? What is data structure? Does anyone know what do we mean by data structures? No.
Uh,
Okay.
to structure the data in a particular way,
Structure
like
of a data in a particular way. Okay.
no structure, like store the data in a particular way or something like
Can you
that.
repeat that? What you said?
Store the data in a particular way.
Store the data, right? You said store the data.
Yes, yes.
Okay, in a particular way. Okay, particular way. Okay. I mean, in a way, you're right. In a way, you're right, right? Now, what are data structures? Let me just try to, again, I do not know the formal definition of it, but let's try to diversify this, the complete word, right? What is data and structure? So it's like, first of all, it's a structure, right? It's a structure. A structure could be like a building, right? Or we could have different types of structure, right? Maybe horizontal structure, a vertical structure, maybe some triangle structure. I mean, I don't know, like it could take multiple forms, right? So the structures could be different, right? Now, what is the purpose of creating those structures? To hold your data. Okay. So any structure which can hold your data is termed as data structure. Let's understand this way. Okay. When I say hold, it means the storage part, which I think just one answered this, right? So store the data in a particular way, right? Now, what all data structures you are aware of? Do you know some data structures which we have been using or you are aware of, which exist? Just a second, I just got a call. Sorry.
Array is one of the data structure only.
Uh, Sorry, I'm so sorry. Sorry. Okay, sorry. Where what I was saying, store the data in a particular way, right? So we were talking about data structure, right? So data structure, what I am saying is that it's a structure where you can store the data. What are the different examples of it? You would have heard about, let's say, stacks, right? Queue, linked list, right? Let's say heap, let's say tree, right? So these are all different examples of your data structures. And same is arrays. Okay, array is again one form of data structures which can help you to store data. Okay, so currently we want to learn about array, but try to understand it's like a data structure which will help you to store some data. Now let's first try to understand why we would need to use arrays. We already have a lot of data types, right, which we can use. So why do we need to use arrays, right? So see here, if I ask you to store a name, right, a name, what you do, you simply create a string variable, right, like this, and you will do something like this, right? Name here, let's say Akhil. Let me set the value as Akhil, right? Now let's say this is good enough if you want to capture only one single value, right? Let's say this name here. But let's say I ask you that please create a program which can help me to store all the names of the students who are part of this full stack bootcamp, right? If I ask you to do that, what will you do? Can you store all the values to this variable name? String name equals to Akhil, right? And similarly, at the same time, can you store the other name, let's say Atul here, right? Abhilash, can you do it? No, right? A single variable can hold, at least in this form, right? A single variable here is in a form which can store only one value, which is this. It is done with this part. How to capture this? The alternative solution is you will start creating multiple variable names. You will say, okay, string name is this. Let's say string name 2 equals to Atul, right? String name 3 equals to Abhilash. But in this process, how many variables you would be creating, right? You would be creating as many variables, as many names you want to store. Now try to understand, right, how typical this is getting, this will get into, right? You will have to create so many variables just to store some data, right? Which is not good, which is not a good part. Rather what we need is, we need, like, let's say, right, I ask you that okay, you need to prepare the list of your guests which you want to invite for a party, right? What will you do? Will you write the different names of your invitees, right, in separate papers, like one name on one paper, one name on another paper? No, right? What you will do, you will like to form a list there, right? You will like to form a list there where you would be adding all the names in a single page, right? So that you can just see it, right? You can just see at the sheet, and you will get to see all the names, right, in a single way by just referring to the sheet. Similarly, in this case, right, I want to have a way where I can use a single variable which can help me to store, I mean, all these inputs, right, which are all the students name here. But I cannot have such a mechanism in place with my current knowledge by creating these variables, right, like variables like this. So this will not help me. What will help me, the one of the data structures which we are learning as of now is arrays. Arrays can help us to do it. What is arrays? Arrays are a data structure which helps you to group similar things together. Remember my word, I'm saying similar things together. Okay, if you want to store all these string values, let's say, together, right? So names are all strings. So if you want to store them together, what data structure you could use? Again, you can have a lot of different options there, but what you should be using is, you should be using arrays here. Okay, I mean, I'm not saying should be, but as of now we are using arrays. Okay, there are other alternatives which we will learn as we go ahead, but let's say we will use arrays. So arrays will help you to store multiple values, right, of same data type. Okay, now so this should be very clear. So instead of doing this, right, we will have to use arrays. How to create arrays we will learn, but let's see how does an array look like. Okay, let's first see the syntax. Let's first see the syntax first of all. Let's just cover this part first. So how does the array look like? Again, understand these words: multiple values and same data type, right? So till now we have created a lot of variables, right? And even the class instance we have created, right? How do we do it? We do it something like this, right? We provide data type here, right? Whatever the data type, whether the primitive data type or custom data type, we provide here, and then we provide the variable name, right? And then we put a equal to after this. And in case of values, you just provide the value, let's say Akhil, like this, if it is like a primitive value. Or if you want to create the class, you do something like this, let's say new class name, and then you do something like this, right? You do this part. Now how does an array looks like? Let's see that structure. The syntax is this: you will have to use data type. What is the data type? What kind of data type? What kind of data you want to store? Let's say I want to store all string. So what I will first write is, I will write string here. Okay, now to have an array which can store string, which is the data type, and how to convert this to an array, you will have to use this bracket here. Okay, you will use this bracket. So data type is string, then you use the brackets here, then you give the variable name as you keep doing. So let me say names, let me say student names, right? The variable name part, right? The variable name is this student name. Again, equal to. How do you do it? You will have to use new keyword, new, and again whatever data type you have used here, right, the same data type goes here, right? So again what you will do is new string, and then what you will do is you will place another these brackets like this. Okay, and then you will do, I think this is fine, right? So this is how you created the array of string type. Now remember the syntax. Now if you would realize, right, this looks very similar when how you create the class, right? How you create the instance of the class, you use a new keyword. In case of arrays also, you will have to use a new keyword. Okay, this is the data type which you want to have for your arrays. This is like the values which you want to hold in your array, right? String type. And here also, right, the same thing, right? On the left hand side, right hand side, this is an additional thing, right? These brackets. One thing which is missing, right? How many values you want to store? How many values you want to store in your arrays? Where will that information go? It will go here inside these brackets. So here you have to give this size. Let's say I want to store 10, so I will write here 10. So this is the complete syntax. So how you should read this? You are here saying that I am going to create an array with the name as student names, and this array will help me to store string values, right, together. Okay, it's like a group of values together, right? But how many such values I can store at max? 10. Okay, do we understand this part? So we have to again remember this syntax. Syntax is this. Again, whenever you're writing even a single word in Java, right, you should be knowing what does that word mean. Why are you doing this way? So try to understand this. We should be clear that we write here string because this is the kind of data we want to store in our arrays. Now, since this is an array, we have to place these brackets. It's a variable name. You have to use new. It's a rule. And then again, the same variable name, I mean, the data type. And then you open the brackets and you provide how many values you want to store in your arrays. Now, let me show you like how this structure is formed, right? I have used 10. Let me not use 10. Let me say I want to store 3 names only, right? Let's say 3 names. How does this gets generated? How does an array looks like, right? Array looks like something like this. It will create something like this. Okay, here we said the size of the array is 3, right? So you can understand that it will create 3 compartments here. This is first, this is second, this is third. Okay, so this is my array. This is my array with the name as student name, right? And this will be holding what? This will be holding string values first of all. So it will be holding what data type? String. A second. Okay. Data type here, right? Data type is string. What is the size of your, what kind of, I mean, how many values you can store? We mentioned 3. So it can store 3. This. One more thing which you have to understand now, right, is that there are, like, if you want to store here value, right? Here, and here, right? In arrays, right? They have a position, right? So how the position starts? The size, total size is 3, but the position starts from 0 index. So your index position is 0, 1, and 2, right? So if you have 3, if you can store 3 values, index position always starts from 0, right? So it will have 0, 1, and 2, right? So what are your index positions? Index position is 0, 1, and 2, which is like, if you consider your size as n, which is 3, so how many, what would be your last position? It would be n minus 1, which is 3 minus 1, which is 2, and it starts from 0. So 0, 1, 2. Now what are index positions? Let's say I want to store 3 names again: Akhil, Atul, and Abhilash, right? So what I will do is, let's say I want to store this Akhil value at here, at the first position. Let's say I want to store Atul in the second position, and let's say I want to store Abhilash at the 0th position, right? So how can I do it? How can I do that part? What you can do is, whatever, again, so again, you will be able to do it by using this index positions. You will say here, okay, place Akhil at index position 1, place Atul at index position 2, place Abhilash at index position 0. And how will you do it? We will see in the code. Okay, not here. But how does your array looks like? It looks like this, right? You can term this as size, length, right? Anything you say, it's the same part, right? Index position we understood, data type we understood. So it will hold values of same type. It cannot be the case that you can start storing string and decimal values here. The data types which are not compatible, you cannot store. Okay. So what you can have is, you can have the similar kind of data there. Let's look at some examples. So if we go there, let us create a Java class array demo. Okay. Let's create a method main. And what I'll do is, I want to store the names of the students, right, into an array. So what I will do is, the names would be of what type? String data type, right? So I have to write string. Again, I want to create an array this time, so I will use this. I will provide a name to my array, which is student names equals to, and I have to use a new keyword, new, and I will again type the string here, right? These brackets and close, and here I have to provide the size of it. How many values I want to store? Let's say 3. This is how your array got created. Now, as soon as you wrote this line, right, what is happening is, it is creating an array of size 3, which is empty. And since it's a, what do we say? Okay. So since this is an array which is going to hold string values, right? So if you don't provide any value to those, right, to those values, it's an instance variable. So what value those that array will be holding for all the 3 things? Null, null, null. Okay. If it was int value, let me show this. So what I'm saying is, I wrote this line, right? I wrote something like this. I said string student name new, string 3. As soon as I wrote this line, what Java will do is Java will create an array, an empty array, right, of size 3. So size is 3 here, right? Index position is 0, 1, 2, and you have told this that this array will be holding values of string type, right? So now, so now it knows, right? If this here, right, is an instance variable, you can see, right? I have, okay. What I did was I created inside a method. Okay, here it will not get it. Okay, here it will not get it. But if I would have created this outside, right, outside the method, it's an instance variable now, right? But in this case, it's a local variable, so it will not get. Okay, okay. So leave that discussion as of now. Just understand that it creates this part. Okay, it creates an empty array like this, 0, 1, 2. Okay, which can hold string values. How do you set the values? I want to set here Akhil. I want to set here Atul, and I want to set here Abhilash. How can I do it? Let's do it very quickly. How can you do is you use the array name, which is student name. You will type here student name. Okay, and here you will open these brackets. Okay, you will open this square bracket, and here you will give the index position, at which position you want to set the values. Let's say I want to first set the Akhil, and which is at position 1. So I will put 1 here, and I will say equals to, and I will say Akhil. Okay, I want to set the value at 0 position. Sudhakar, tell me what should I type here if I want to store the value at 0 position with the name as Abhilash.
In first index, right? Student name
Yes,
of 0 is equal to
student
index of 0.
index of 0, right?
Yes.
Because index position starts from 0, right? And that is the first position where I can store some value. So I will write here Abhilash, right? And Siali, if I have to store it at the second position, what should I do?
Student name in the bracket 2
2.
equal to double quotes and whatever name we wish to give.
Okay, Atul, right?
Yeah.
So this is how I have got the value, right? I have set the values, right? Now this is how I have set the values. And let's say now I want to retrieve the values, right? I want to see, let's say I have set the values, I've set so many values inside the array, and now I don't remember, but I know, I want to know what is the value stored at the first position. So how you can get it? Let me write a stored out of println. So this was to set the value, right? This is how you set the values in the array. How do you get the values from the array? You can do something like this. You can, let's say I'm printing it. So again, you will use the same thing, student name, right? Whatever position, whatever value you want to get from the position, right? So let's say I want to get the value from the index position 1. So I will just say this, and this will print what? It will try to see what is placed at the first position of this array, and it will get it and print this. Is it okay with everyone? So this is how you set the values. You use this and you do a equal to and you set the value. Again, like a normal assignment operation, right? This is how you assign a value.
So
And
just
how
one
do you,
query over here. So what exactly the student name stands for? Means what do we call it over here?
it's an array.
Is it
It's
okay,
an
it's an array.
it's an array. It's an array, right? It's an array. And how do you notify it's an array? By these brackets, right? Wherever you see these kinds of square brackets, you have to understand that somewhere this is something related to arrays only. Okay. So this is
Okay.
like the representation of that something is an array here. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So while creating instance only, we also specified that array name, student name.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is the syntax of it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we did this, and now let's say I
So
want
this
to
was
run this.
simple array, right? This was simple array, right?
It's a simple array. You can
Because
term it as like a
yesterday,
one dimensional array.
yeah,
You can term it as one dimensional array. You
yeah,
can see,
because
right?
yesterday you said there are some 2, 3 types of arrays.
Arrays are only of one type. Okay, we can
Okay, okay,
create as many dimensions of it as we want.
okay.
Okay, but I think for today, let's just skip to one dimensional only. I will not teach two dimensional today. I think it will be too much, so I'll not cover that part. But let's just stick to this part. So what I'm saying is, I have created an array like this where I've provided the size, and I can set the values like this. So this is how you set the values. Set the values in the array, right? In the array, and like this is the way to get the values. This is how you get the values, right? And this is how you create the array, right, everyone? So this is
Yeah.
how you create the array, this is how you set the value, this is how you get the value. Now
Yeah.
let's look at, see, you can see, right? Now this is like, you see, whenever you work with the variable, right, there are two parts to it. You declare a variable, you assign a value to it, which is like initialization. So declaration, you just declare the variable, and initialization is that you initialize some values to that variable. So here also, this is just the declaration part in a single line, and the initialization is happening in the separate lines. Now let's say I want to club them together into a single line. How can I do it? Just an alternative way of creating an array, right, but in a single line. How we can do it? Let's use this as is. I will just change the name of the array here. I will say as one, student names one. Okay, and here what I'll do is, I'm saying I will assign the values also in the same line. How can I do it? In that case, when you want to set the values also, right, what you should do is remove the size. Remove the size, and over here, right, open these parentheses, these curly braces. Okay, open these curly braces and provide the value here. I will set here Akhil, Atul, and Abhilash. Okay, now what is happening here? Whether you do this or you do this in these like 4 or 5 lines, right, and here it's a single line. So you can see that whatever you were able to write in 4 or 5 lines, you can also achieve this in a single line, this in a single line like this, right? Now let's try to see the difference here. This part, at least the left hand side part, is very same, right? Like this, you just declare the kind of data your array will be holding. This is the array the representation of array. This is the variable name. This is the equal to thing, and you use a new keyword. And again, on the right hand side, you provide the data type which your array will be holding, and these are the brackets. The only part here is that you're not defining the size of the array now, but you are telling that what values your arrays will have. Your array will have these three values. So from this list itself, it is clear that your array is holding three values. Okay, so now by doing this, we can understand, or Java understand, that the size of your array is 3. The size of the array is 3 because you are giving 3 inputs here. Okay, so this is just an alternative way of declaring your array plus initializing it in a single line. Okay, and here you don't have to specify the size, you just provide the values in these curly braces, and from here your Java gets to know what is the size of the array. Okay, and again, if I try to, let's say I will use names one, and I will try to access the second value, what should it print? Abhilash, yes, Abhilash, please, what it should print?
It will print Abhilash.
Right, it will print Abhilash, right?
Yeah.
So let me run this. Right, everyone? Okay, just an alternative way of doing this, all this in a single line is this. Okay,
So, but why student names one?
yes, it's a different variable. Okay, let me give it another name if it is getting confused. Let's say Stu. Okay, write Stu here. Okay, now is it clear?
Yeah.
Okay, so these are two different things. Now tell me one last thing, right, about arrays. I mean on this part, right? Now see here, right? What I'm saying is, if you use this way, here also you have to define the size of the array. If you don't do it, it will throw compilation error. So this is mandatory, right? You have to provide. If we use the other approach of just providing the values directly, right? Here also you have to give the values, right? What all values you want to have, right? Let's say I want to have 3 values, so A, B, C, whatever that is. So here, from here, right, from the given inputs, it will understand that this time you have to store that this your array is of size 3. Okay. So one thing is very confirmed, that the size of the array has to be determined at the time of creation only. When you're creating your array, at that point of time you have to somehow provide that information, that what is the size of your array, how many values it can store, right? Here also you're giving it, and in this case it is getting automatically calculated by Java, that okay, you're providing 3 values, so the size of the array must be 3. Now what if I want to add the 4th value to my array? Let's say I did this, and now I want to add here, let's say Sally. Can I do this in array? After first creating the size of the array, can I modify this? I cannot. This is like a disadvantage you can consider with arrays, that once you have defined the size of your array, you cannot modify it. You cannot grow your array, or you cannot diminish your array, right, with the size value at least, right? So if you have decided the size to be 3, it will remain 3 only. It will never start accepting the 4th value. And if you try to set the 4th value, right, see, here we have defined the size of 3, right? So the index positions are what? 0, 1, and 2, right? What will happen is, let me say that okay, so all 3 values are taken up, 0, 1, 2 are taken up. I am trying to set the size, I'm trying to set the index position 3, right? Which means that the array size is of 4, which is not the case, right? But I will try to set the values here as Sally, let's say. You can see your compilation, right, will not throw an error. You can see, right? It is not throwing an error here. But as soon as you try to run this, let me just comment this line, and also let's comment this line. Okay, let me try to run this. You will see it will throw an error. It will say, you said that the size of this array has to be 3. Why are you providing 4 values? And when you say the size of the array is 3, so the last index position in your array should be 2. Why you are providing a value at index position 3 which does not exist in your array? See, it throws an exception. Index 3 out of bound for length 3. You will see an error like this. Okay, where you're trying to set up at a position which does not exist in your array. Okay, so what I said is, your array is not growable. It's not that if you have defined the size of it, then you can just keep growing it. No, whatever size you have defined, it is fixed. You cannot change it. Okay, so this is how the arrays works. Now we created an array of string type. Let's create an array of int type. Again, how will I do it? Int here, brackets. Let's say I want to store IDs of all the students. So I will do new int, and I want to, let's say, set the 5 size. And how will I do it? I will do something like this. ID 0 equals to 1. ID 0 equals to 1, ID 1 equals to 2, right? Let's say I just want to set 2 value, right? So this is how you will do it. Okay. And this is, now in this case, what are you creating? You're creating an array which will hold int values. What is the size of that array? 2. What would be the index position? 0 and 1, right? And this is how you set the values. Now tell me one thing, can I do this? ID equals to 1 comma 2. Can I do this? You can see it is not allowing me to do it. So from this, the answer is also getting answered, that this is not how you assign the values, right? Like let's say if you try to do this, right? So this is not a valid syntax, right? So how you should do is, if you have separated your declaration and initialization in separate lines, So the only possible way to set the values is by doing one by one. So you have no other options. You will do something like this: id 0 equals to 1, id 1 equals to 2. This is the only option you have. You cannot do this. When you could do that part, when you wanted to initialize the value at the declaration time, which is here, right? 1 and 2. You could do this here, but here also you would have to not provide the size, right? See here, and let me comment this out. You're getting my point, right? If you have done this way, then you can use these parentheses to set the value. So here it will know that okay, 0 position is 1, and the value at the first position is 2. But if you do this 3 and you expect that okay, in the next statement I will set the values of all my index positions by writing this line, then you are wrong. This will not work. It's a compilation issue now. This is not allowed in Java. Now the only option you have is you will set the value of every position one by one. Okay. Just I wanted to point to this part because a lot of people may face this issue when they will ask,
So-
when I will ask them. Mhm.
So if we don't specify any value in the array, it allows us to give as many inputs as we can. If you don't give 3 over
Yes,
there.
yes. If I do something like this, right, I can just keep
Yeah,
on
yeah,
adding
yeah.
whatever I want. So
Yeah.
it will automatically decide from number of values which I provided. It will then decide okay, what is the size of my array? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this time the size of the array would be automatically determined by Java, and it would be 8, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is about arrays, right? This is how what arrays are. This is how arrays looks like. This is how you declare an array. This is how you initialize an array. This is how you get the values from the array. Okay. Okay. I think we are good for today. I don't want to cover enhanced for loop for today. Although I was thinking to cover it, but let's take some time to digest these two information about constructors and array, and maybe tomorrow we'll cover it. The enhanced for loop. Okay, everyone. Any question on this part, array and the constructor part, which we have covered?
Not a question as such, but conceptual question I have. Then where is the use of constructor? I mean, so what is the purpose where we need it actually in Java?
See, what you can do in constructor is, let's say that, see, what is the purpose of creating a class? The purpose of creating a class is that it can have certain variables, right? And it can have some behaviors, right? Behaviors, I mean methods, right? So a class can have variables and the methods, right? Why will you add a let's say, why will you add a method? Because you may need to invoke it, right? You want to process some logic, right? Let's say, right?
Yes, yes.
Right now, but if you have to, okay, if you use only methods, right, inside the class, right, and not use constructors, and let's say if I have to run that logic, what is the only option which I have? I will have to go and invoke that method, right?
Yeah.
And before that, I would have to create the instance of the class, and using that instance name, I will use and then put a dot and the method name, right?
Yeah. Yes.
This is how you invoke the method, right? So I will have to do that. I will have to I will have to use that thing and then invoke it. But let's say I don't want to invoke any method. What I'm saying is I want to have a behavior at the time of object creation itself. Okay, certain behavior. Let's say when I would be running, if I give you an example from automation framework, right? Let's say when I'm trying to run my suite, right? My automation suite, at that point itself, right? Let's say my first line is to create the instance of the, let's say, some of the main engine of my automation framework, and as part of it itself, I want my object to be my Chrome browser to start. Okay, and to start my Chrome browser, I do not want to invoke any method. I just want to create the instance of the class, right? So for that need, I would use constructor there. Okay, so constructor can help me to invoke the method without even invoking any methods. Okay, so I can write that logic inside my constructor there. And when I would be creating the instance of the class, it will make sure that logic inside that constructor gets called, and whatever logic I want. There I would have entered the logic of opening up the browser. You're getting my point, right? I'm just giving one example. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Instead of invoking a method which will require a specific line of using that instance name dot and then the method name, I don't want to do it. I just want to run some logic at the instance creation itself. So whatever that need could be, if that is the need, you will use your constructor. The second importance of constructor is initializing the values of your instance variable, right?
Yes.
Like how we did it today. You can set the values of your instance variables when you are when you're creating the object of your class itself, rather than just after then doing it, right? Like dot set name, right? Instead of doing this, just use a single line using that constructor call, and it will set the values for all your variables. So you can achieve both the objectives, right? You can invoke some logic, or you could set the values of your instance variables. This is the purpose of constructor. Okay. We will see when we will work on automation frameworks, right? We will try to understand how beneficial it is for us to use constructors there. Okay. Okay, but we should understand like what constructors are, how they are invoked, what are default constructors, right? And all the rules which I mentioned here, and especially about arrays, right? How arrays work. Okay. Okay, everyone. I think if Sudhakar, did you have any query? You wanted to say something?
No. I'm good.
Okay, great. I think we are good for today. Okay, let's meet tomorrow, and we will cover the missed topic, which is enhanced for loop. And I will see if I have to cover 2D dimensional array as of now or not. Otherwise, we will keep it for some other class, and we will continue for the whatever topics I will decide for tomorrow. But I will include enhanced for loop there as well. Okay, thank you so much for today. I sorry for today. There was some of the work which came in between, so I have to be away for some time. Let's meet tomorrow, right? Good night. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. Take care.